Happy Monday. So glad that you are able to join us for another incredible episode of Just Shilling. We have a special guest waiting for her to join, and as some people do come in the room, Lindsay, hello, welcome, welcome. How are you all doing? Just wanted to give a quick reminder. There's Laetitia. How are you? Let's bring her on up. So, just going over some ground rules here. We do not cover anything that is going to be related to financial advice. We want to make sure that this is an inclusive and safe space. So if it's anything that's probably a little bit too controversial for a family dinner, we may want to avoid that topic, but we do like to bring things a little bit of spice in the room to make the conversations interesting, no less. So without further ado, Sean, welcome. Bob, thank you for joining here. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to our very special guest, Laetitia. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it seems like it was so long ago since we had our initial chat, and here we are. The date is up on us, so thank you so much for joining. Let's kind of go give the audience a minute or two elevator pitch about who you are, the organization that you represent, and currently the capacity of your role as well too. Welcome, Douglas. How are you?
Hello, sorry. So Laetitia Grimaud, I'm French originally. I'm the co-founder and head of growth now of D2X. I'm a lawyer, did my study both in Paris and London, duly qualified in both countries. Also worked in New York for a fund for a while, and then qualified as a solicitor of England and Wales in capital markets at Linklaters in London. Then moved to Natixis, the French investment bank, and was so passionate about the blockchain subject that I decided to move forward and work 100% in this field. Met with my two co-founders, Theo and Don, and we together built D2X. So D2X is the very first regulated crypto derivatives exchange out of Europe. We offer listed crypto derivatives for institutions only, regulated ones, so no retail. And we basically bridge the gap between the crypto assets and the institutions. Today, when it comes to crypto derivatives, you have big institutions such as the CME in the US, but then it's very expensive. Margin requirements are very high, very difficult to access the market because there is a central clearinghouse and you have to go through a clearing member. And then on the other side of the spectrum, in the crypto natives, you have exchanges like Deribit, Bybit, and then you pile up risks such as counterparty risks, custody risks, and the likes. I could go on the number of risks that there are,
Yeah.
of course, on trading on these venues. We really are in the middle of this, and we are the first to be fully regulated under the regular securities and derivatives traditional finance regulation.
Wonderful, thank you. Congratulations. That's quite a milestone. Before we kind of get to the present day, let's go back a little bit in time from your journeys from a lawyer in New York to becoming someone that is well versed in blockchain and working with great organizations. So tell us a little bit about kind of the earlier start of your career and what that's been like, trying even kind of making that transition to the current.
Yes, sure. So what I did is I never really followed the standard path. So I did my law degree in Paris. All of my friends, they were staying in Paris, doing a sort of a master's degree and then working in a law firm in Paris. And I didn't want to follow that path. I wanted to travel. I wanted to open some new some ways for me to be able to work in Hong Kong, New York, maybe London. And I thought, okay, I'm going to move to London and take the bar exam there so that it opens some doors to me. So that's what I did. And then I studied there. And then I thought, okay, now I would like to spend a bit of time in New York. If I don't do it now, I would never do it. So I left. I found myself an internship there in a fund. Worked there for a while and then had to go back to Linklaters in London, where I trained as a solicitor. I did some regulation. I did some M&As. I did some capital markets, and then I specialized in there. And then for personal reasons, I had to go back to Paris. And then I met with my former boss, Jeremy Grant, who later introduced me to Theo. So that's quite funny. But the transition really happened at Natixis. So at Natixis, I was working in fixed income. So like bonds issuances, EMTNs, basically. And then I got a bit bored. I thought, okay, it's a nice area, but I would like to do something more. And one of my front officers came to me with questions about blockchain. And I was like, what is it, blockchain? It was back in 2017. I was like, what is it? And I kept digging and digging. And I thought, wow, this is really something interesting. There's really something going on in there. And I, started reading about it, listening to podcasts, really going to the conferences. And I was in touch with the digital assets team in Natixis, became really good friends with them, and they sort of, adopted me in their team, even though it was not my primary job. And so I had to convince my boss in capital markets to let me do more and more blockchain, basically. And at some point, unfortunately, I realized that, in big banks, generally, the pace is not that fast. And the blockchain subjects were, even though it was, of course, very interesting to everyone, was not something that, the bank was going to dedicate a lot of time to, unfortunately, and resources. So I thought I have to leave and do 100% of my time in there. And that's when I met with Theo through my former colleague at Linklaters. And that's, it's true that I took a big risk, right? I mean, I had a very well-paid job, and Natixis is very comfortable. But then I thought, in life, with great risk, sometimes you have great rewards. So I thought, let's jump into the train. And then, I could still go out of the train. But if I just look at the train go by and don't go into it, I would regret it. So that's what I did.
And you had mentioned as well too, during our conversation, that one of the notable projects that you worked on was Project Jura, and this was with the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, for folks that may not know. So, and you had a background in capital markets law, but you still mentioned that you were kind of observing that the progress in this area was a bit slow. So can you help us understand a little bit like what that experience was like, and what do you mean by like moving slow?
Yeah, but because you know how it works. So Project Jura is a good example. We worked on Project Jura for about a year and a half to complete it. So it's
and
a lot
maybe
of
explain
time.
to people what that project was and the significance of it as well.
Yeah, it's a project on central bank digital currency. So it was really to be able to work hand in hand with, the BIS, but also the Swiss National Bank and the French National Bank, and together test what a CBDC would look like within the issuance of a bond, basically, of a tokenized bond, and how the transfer of the CBDC against, the quasi-CBDC, of course, because there's no such a thing now, but it was a quasi-CBDC against a tokenized security. So it was really about issuing that on a private blockchain. So in this context, it was Corda, the private blockchain of R3. And the issue you see is that in a bank, you have a lot of, as soon as you do something new, you have to do a new product committee, you have to involve compliance risks, you have to involve the front office, you have to involve so many different teams, and the teams don't necessarily know about blockchain. They don't necessarily know about that. They're not experts. And so you have to, first of all, be able to explain what you're trying to do to all of these teams. You have to federate all of these teams, take them on board. They all have to play a role somehow. And then that's just at the level of one bank. And that you can multiply by the number of banks. So you can imagine that in our case, it was like 6 or 7 different entities. So yeah, of course, it was slow because you had to coordinate all of that. Of course, you had Accenture was involved in the project management in this. You had technology providers as well that were involved. So yeah, it's big projects, and other big projects have followed after that, like Helvetia, or a lot of them, and they all took a lot of time because, of course, it's big institutions, and with big institutions come a lot of constraints, as you can imagine.
Yeah, thank you for helping us understand that. And can you walk us through a little bit more about the genesis of D2X, and how you all are aiming to really bridge the gap between institutional finance and the crypto space.
Yeah, so it became apparent to Theo and Don. They were working at a market maker in Amsterdam, and originally they understood that no one could really trade crypto derivatives for many different reasons. But the main reason was the total absence of regulated and robust trading venues offering this very product. So you have seen, of course, the CME, and since the inception of the CME for these products back in 2017, the progress has been amazing. I mean, when you look at the volumes, it's just crazy. It's just becoming crazy. And what you see is that a lot of venues like Deribit, Bybit, PowerTrade, like so many of them have emerged, but they all the same in the sense that they all unregulated, offshore, quite dangerous, and as I said at the beginning, really pile up so many different risks. So the issue with that is that, of course, that can work for retail, but that doesn't really work for an institution. You would never see someone like Citigroup or Goldman Sachs or even smaller actors that are regulated being able to trade on unregulated venues, because it's just not possible. The compliance, the risk, they would just not allow it. And on the other hand, I mean, trading on the CME, of course, it's robust and secured, but then it's really expensive because the CME has a clearinghouse. They're closed on weekends because CCPs do not operate on weekends. So it makes the trading experience really hard, because you have to post margins that are very high on Friday nights. You have to go through, as I said, you have to go through a clearing member. So it's very expensive because, of course, those people, so brokers and the likes, add some fees above of that. So it just makes it really complicated to trade. And so we have really built something that's an hybrid between a CME model with a CCP and if I can say, a Deribit model, an offshore model, but all in a regulated and robust manner and without a CCP. And all of that has been approved, of course, by the regulator, because we've obtained our license under the regular traditional finance regulation.
Thank you so much for shedding some more light on that, and walk us through a little bit about your process and being able to obtain that license. I know this is a huge milestone for you, and I'm so proud that you're able to lead the charge in this. But what was that like? Was it just kind of a roller coaster ride? Like, give us a little bit of an example of your experiences to get to this level.
Yeah, it's I have to say, I cannot stress enough that it has been very complicated and very difficult. I cannot stress that enough, because first of all, we are the first to obtain this license, and that's probably also why it was so difficult. The regulators in Europe, they of course know cryptos, but they are they're quite reluctant. They're a bit scared about cryptos. We don't have MiCA. MiCA is the incoming regulation for crypto assets in Europe. And in the absence of that, and backwards 2 years ago, we were far away from MiCA. And so I think that it has been very a really hard job having to convince the regulator of what is it we were trying to achieve. They had to understand the business model. They had to understand the legal qualification of our product and accept the fact that, in fact, our product goes and actually falls under the remit of MiFID. That was a really difficult part. And then, of course, because they want to be very cautious, as you can imagine, as a reputable regulator, they ask you so many questions. So they ask you so many questions about, the settlement, about how is it you're going to operate, about the risks involved in your model, about the kind of people you're going to have on the exchange. One of the big factor was that we do not accept retail directly on the platform. This is something that's very important, because regulators don't like, at least in Europe, they don't like retail accessing those products, because they feel it's a bit volatile, and they accept the fact that savvy traders and regulated institutions measure the risk of getting into this product, and that there is something to be done here, and of course they much prefer having professional trade on D2X than on derivatives, because of course that's way less risky. But yet they are not ready to accept retail on that platform. So I know that this has been a very important point for the regulator. The governance has been another very important point. So on our board, we have Frédéric Colette, who's a former leader of New Edge. That's the prime brokerage arm of Société Générale. So used to manage, more than 1,000 people. Used to live in Chicago, in London. We have Ernest van der Hout, who's the former head of surveillance and risks at both Euronext and LCH ClearNet. So those people have more than 30 years of experience, and this has really been important and convincing to the regulator, because they trusted us in the sort of expertise we brought together as a collective and as a board.
Yes, that trust is so important. And can you help shed a little bit more light on maybe just the culture of your team, the other people that are supporting you and helping all of this to come to fruition? Help us understand a little bit what's it like, just a day in the life working in the team. And I know that you had mentioned as well too during our conversation that, even though this industry is there's a heavy emphasis on working remote, that you all actually prefer to work in person. So kind of shed a little bit more light on that for us, if you will.
Yes, I mean, it's just, this is a question of culture, and each company has its own culture, I would say. But for us, it's we've noticed that as a general rule, whether it's within the team or when meeting with investors or clients, being in person with someone is really, really different, and it really makes a difference in the relationship that you build with people. And remote is, of course, great, and especially after COVID, we understood that it has some benefits, of course, but it also has its limits. And we find that being together in the same room and talking together in the same room, sharing ideas and challenging each other, makes a very, very big difference. You do not debate with someone in the same manner when you face the person or when you're on the phone with the person or even in video. It's just not the same. I think you don't see the face of the person the same. You don't see his reaction, whether good or bad, in the same manner. And I think that's really about having this culture for everything. So the developers, they work together, they're in one room, they can share ideas. When one has a problem, maybe in the coding, you can ask someone else. It's the same in the risk team. Of course, we're not a very big team yet, right? We're about 40 people. It's not tiny, but it's not, we're not a huge incumbent. So it's really about developing relationship with the managers, with the team members, and also going out with each other, having a coffee, having lunch with people. It's really important. And I think that you develop strong ties with people. That's very, very important, and that you work really, really well and better when you are present with someone rather than just having videos all the time.
Yeah. And how about, I do enjoy having conversations with people from around the world, just in general, because I'm not honestly privy to this information. What's the scene like in Holland when it comes to crypto, Web3, and blockchain? Do you feel like it's a pretty, forward-thinking individuals there that are technically savvy, that understand this, that are utilizing this technology and having the conversations, maybe just from not even the institutional side, but just from retail as well?
Yes, I think that Dutch people generally are very pragmatic, very business oriented, and they're risk takers. I think that's how I would put it. Unlike French, they're a bit less risk takers, for example, I would say. This is a general statement. Huh? I'm not. Of course, you have a lot of exceptions, but as a general rule, I would say that. And the Dutchies are really pragmatic. They understand the tech quite well. And if you look at the environment, in fintechs, for example, in the Netherlands, or even in the payment industry, you have a lot of new startup there. So if you look at fundraising and you look at the percentages of where startup raise money, the Netherlands are in the top of the list. Of course, France, Germany, they are big countries, way bigger countries than the Netherlands, but it's really, really dynamic, and they're way before other countries that are even bigger than the Netherlands, but they're really, really dynamic. And we could feel that with the regulator as well. The regulator was really pragmatic, really understood our business case, and that was really interesting to have conversation with them, because some regulators, I won't name, but I had discussion with them, maybe would not have understood the business in the same manner.
And do you feel like having those conversations with regulators, it's getting better? Do you feel like it's, a more of a relationship versus something that's kind of combative? Because I know that, in the States here, we're still trying to come along and move things forward when it comes to, regulation and doing things in a compliant manner. So, do you feel that it's easier, or it's more conducive to have conversations? And you mentioned that yes, you have a few that may not be so easy, but overall, what's the conversations like? Do you feel that they're open and receptive, and that they're pretty knowledgeable about this subject matter, or that they need some to kind of really get better in that?
I think you always need to get better. I think we all need to get better. But I think for the regulator, it's been a bit difficult because of the absence of an actual legal framework, if you want. Because
Okay.
if you look at the if you look at the regulation in Europe, for example, for crypto assets, where we don't really have a crypto assets regulation that's harmonized, right? So we had the countries have went ahead and just created their own framework. So in France, you have the PSAN framework, for example. Then you have registration in Holland. You have a registration in Luxembourg. So every country has sort of done its own a small piece of regulation, but that just works in their own country, right? And now what the EU has done is that they've created MiCA. And so now we have MiCA, so this is going to be passported throughout Europe. When you obtain your license in France or in Italy, it will be passported throughout Europe, so that's much easier. And I think that for the regulator, in their defense, it was quite difficult before to actually, accept some new innovations and some new business models, because you don't really know what's going to happen in MiCA. For us, it was a bit different because, of course, our business model falls within MiFID. But again, the regulator could have said, no, I disagree, it should fall within MiCA. I mean, it's always a question of interpretation. You have a lot of that in the US as well, right? Whether something in the security or not, whether something should fall within the remit of the CFTC or the SEC. I mean, we all have that in a way. So it's always a question of, putting one's foot down and say, okay, I think this is the right interpretation. I'm going to do it. And under MiCA, this is going to happen a lot, because you're going to have a lot of gray areas where you've got the regulators looking at something and be like, okay, I'm not sure that it is a hybrid product. Is this going to be in MiCA? Is this going or it should be in MiFID? I'm not sure. Well, but if they give the license under MiCA or under MiFID, it's passported. So a German regulator who gives the license, that will impose itself on the rest of the EU countries. So it's not like France or Italy could say, oh no, I disagree with this interpretation. Once the license is granted, it's granted for everyone. So in that, the functioning is a bit different than the US, I would say also.
Yes, very different indeed.
Yeah.
So, some of the other things that really I love doing some research and seeing this, that you were involved in this as well too, but I know that your organization is really committed to, not only driving innovation, but, fostering knowledge sharing, and I think empowering the next generation of leaders to remain steadfast. So can you talk a little bit about some of the other things that you're doing, the collaborations, and how you're connecting with the community? I know that you had recently hosted some students from the HEC Paris MBA Tech Club. So kind of help us
Yeah.
understand a little bit about those initiatives and the other things that you're doing organically just to continue to spread the knowledge, the word, and educate people about what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you two examples, but generally what we do is, first of all, attend a lot of conferences. We do a lot of podcasts, a lot of articles and interviews. I think that contributes, of course, to spread the knowledge among people. So that's something we do constantly and as a general rule. The HEC initiative is a very good one. Another one that we do every year is the London Business Challenge. So that's the London Business School that actually Theodore attended himself. And that's why there is a connection there. But each year we go there, and there is a sort of a project that the students have to work on, and then they present the project to us, and that's really interesting. So of course it's always crypto related, or it can be derivatives related, but it's always something new, and they bring a lot of knowledge into that, a lot of energy, and I think that's also very good in terms of recruitment, because after that you are linked with very smart people, and who knows, maybe they come and join your firm as well.
Yeah.
So that's great. In terms of the general knowledge we spread to also to companies, we team up with Acuity. So Acuity is it's an association that specializes in derivatives. They have, of course, knowledge on crypto derivatives. They organize a lot of very intimate and if I should say VIP conferences where we can meet with people, and of course you have some presentations and debates. And they also publish some newsletters, some surveys, some articles, and we have written some articles about the crypto derivatives ecosystem in the past as well with them, and that's something that we do, and we do that as a general rule. So we do a lot of things. Yeah.
Nice. And I know that you've had extensive travels. We were mentioning all the places that you get to go and to meet with different individuals that you're working with. So from those travels and interactions with investors and stakeholders and shareholders, etc., what kind of trends are you currently observing in terms of just institutional adoption of cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, well, it's been a while. It's been a while that we say that institutions are coming. Institutions are coming. I think that the reality is that institutions are coming, but they're coming once they have an actual piece of regulation to rely on, and that's the case for MiFID, of course, and that's why I think for us it's going to work out well also, because institutions need trading venues like ours. But I think that MiCA, the trend is also that MiCA is going to bring a lot of security and robustness in the ecosystem. And I think that institutions are coming more and more, and MiCA is going to be, to me, a very big pillar, because they're going to be able to say, okay, we will ourselves be asking for licenses, for example, right? You could have a bank tomorrow, a very big bank, who's like, okay, I want to become, a custodian of cryptocurrencies. And before that, they would not have done it, because, as I said, they would have done that with a simple registration in France, but they could never have clients outside of France because it's not passported. So it's a very small market. It's a big market, but for a bank who wants to expand, it's not enough. So the MiCA is really giving another step to all of that, because then you can address the world when you have a sort of a MiCA license. So it's really different, and I think it's going to take the market to the next level. And I think institutions are going to come more and more. And as of derivatives, they're already very big. They're already the volumes are picking up more and more. And what the trend is, not only on institutional side, but you can see that people are more and more scared about counterparty risk. With everything that happens with FTX, with the banks collapsing in the US and Switzerland, people, and when I say people, it's everyone, right? Institutions, retail, everyone. I think everyone is really scared about counterparty risk. This has become something very clear. And so I think that trading venues like us, trading venues tomorrow with the MiCA license, this is going to bring a lot of confidence and in the market, especially for regulated institutions.
Thanks for sharing that. That's wonderful. And I know that you had mentioned a little bit about like the inefficiencies of a traditional clearing setup, right? And I know that you have a bit of a different model here. So how does D2X really kind of navigate these challenges to ensure that seamless trading experience for the users?
Yeah, so we've taken a while to build our products and to build something that we felt was needed by the markets. So we listened to the feedback of the market, and the feedback has been, okay, we cannot trade on weekends, and that's an issue if you want to trade on a regulated venue. So the clearinghouse model is very good for traditional securities, for traditional financial instruments. But the issue with crypto is that crypto doesn't stop moving on weekends. It
So
doesn't
true,
stop
yeah.
moving at nights. And so that's a big issue, because then what do you do during the weekend? You have to stop trading. You have to stop hedging. And that's a big issue. That's a very big issue. And that's absolutely not solved wherever. We'll be the very first exchange to offer trading on a 7 days basis, and in a little while on a 24/7 basis. So that is really why we chose this approach. And that's really by listening to the feedbacks we receive from everyone and from our target audience, of course, that we decided to build that. The access to market is a very good one as well. When you go to the CME, as I explained, you need to go through a clearing member. So that's very expensive, that's very long. On D2X, of course, by filing certain conditions, you can access D2X directly as a member. You don't necessarily need to go through a clearing member.
Wonderful, wonderful. And with really a focus on, insolvency protection, how does D2X mitigate risk and kind of prioritize that investor security in the very volatile world of cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a very, very, very big point, because when you trade on an unregulated venue, you face the exchange. Okay, so your counterparty is the exchange, which could never happen in a regulated world, as you as you saw with FTX. This is a very big issue. This is very risky. You face a counterparty that itself is not regulated. You don't. We know what they have. They're unaudited, so it's absolutely dangerous. D2X is not a counterparty to the trade at all. They're never counterparty to trade. So you post, first of all, you post euros. You don't post crypto. So thereby eliminating the risk of custody, right? You're not facing any custodian for your crypto. You're facing like a credit institution, a tier one credit institution in the EU
Yeah.
that keeps your euro collateral. And then you are insolvency remote from us, of course, but you are also insolvency remote from the other members, because we have a system of pledge and we have a system of legal opinions that makes the whole system totally insolvency remote, which is absolutely not the case when you trade on an unregulated venue, of course, because you have a counterparty risk, as I said, against the exchange, but you also have a custodian risk against the exchange, because many times when you trade on an exchange, the exchange is not only your counterparty on the trade, but it's also your custodian. So, which is absolutely risky, because of course, if the exchange goes bust, then that's a big issue for you. That's a double issue for you. And then you have these quasi cold custody solutions that claim to be insolvency remote, but which in fact are not really. And I'm not going to bore you to death with insolvency law, of course, but I can tell you it's not insolvency remote.
I love it. I love it. Well, wow, this conversation is moving along. This has been very insightful. Thank you so much for this. I do want to give the opportunity for anyone that is in the audience. If anyone does have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. We have about 25 minutes left. Wow, I cannot believe how fast the time is moving along. So if anyone does have a question, please raise your hand and we will do our best to bring you up. But in the meantime, I wanted to go back to this topic of trust, right? And I believe that this is paramount in the world, and very much so in our industry. So how are you and your organization really working to build and maintain that trust among its users, the regulators, and the partners that are in this ever evolving crypto ecosystem?
I think that the fact that we put so much energy in regulation, to me, is a bit, the regulation is a bit the glue for the trust, right? So everything we do it in a compliant manner, and we do it in a robust manner. So everything from our policies and procedures to the way our tech has been built is compliant and robust. People tend to think, oh, okay, they are compliant because they have compliant officers, they are risk officers, they have committees and stuff. It's not only that. It's important to mention that our tech itself is compliant, and you have a lot of requirements on the tech itself within the EU regulation, and you cannot imagine how many requirements there are on your tech itself. So it's very, very important. So our tech is compliant, our governance is compliant, the way we train our staff, the way we interact with people, the way we communicate, and everything. So you have many requirements on the way you operate, in the way you don't discriminate your members, for example. We have to treat our members in exactly the same manner. We cannot say, okay, you are going to you're going to pay that amount of fees, and you, on the other end, you're going to pay another amount of fees. The unregulated venues do that all the time. We cannot, because regulation just prohibits you from doing that. Another very important point that builds up on trust is market manipulation. When you trade on unregulated venues, you have a lot of market manipulation going on, spoofing, front running. You manipulate the price. You have behaviors that are really doubtful, and that manipulates the market and the prices. We don't have that. We don't have that because we have a system in place that's called Skila. That's actually the same market surveillance, market abuse system that Eurex uses, for example. So it's just to give you a bit of a view of the robustness of the system. This, of course, has been checked. All of this has been checked by the regulator and has had to be approved by the regulator and the tech team at the regulator. So just to say that everything we do is done to be transparent, is done to be non-discriminatory about anything and towards anyone. And I think that when you understand that, it gives you trust. The fact that we also have the insolvency remoteness, the fact that when you post collateral, we've partnered with not with a bank, a neobank, or a bank that's not really an institution. The fact that we've partnered with a top tier one credit institution is very important to members as well.
I love it. I love it. And this is shifting gears a little bit and maybe a little bit more personal, because I do remember our conversation about your journey, and your career speaks for itself. But what role does resilience, discipline, and courage really kind of play into turning your entrepreneurial dreams into tangible realities as you have experienced yourself personally in kind of the formation of D2X?
Yeah, that's very true. Those are words that I feel very, very strongly about, because you wake up in the morning and sometimes you have very good news and you're very happy, and sometimes like you have hundreds of issues that arise in one day. Like you cannot imagine, whether it's HR issues, whether it's regulatory issues, whether it's technical issues, whether it's something that's been raised and that we didn't see before, and you have to extinguish fires every single day. And for that to survive that, you have to have a lot of discipline, of course. You have to take one issue after another. So you have you wake up in the morning, you have 10 new issues within your day that just arise. It's just here, and you didn't expect to have them. And you just have to take them one by one, keep calm, being very resilient, and be I don't have any other way than to just deal with them one after the other. And this is really a mindset that you need to have in a startup, and actually in our startup a lot. Maybe in some startup more than in others, I don't know. But in our company, you really have to have this resilience and we have to move forward. There is no other way than to move forward and deal with this issue. And I don't have time to cry. I don't have time to be desperate and to be like, oh my God, this is terrible. I'm depressed. You just don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
You just have to put your head down in work and deal with issues
And keep going. And as someone
and
that's
keep
been
going.
and as someone that's been, deeply immersed in both the legal and financial aspects of the crypto space, like what's some more advice that you would offer to maybe aspiring entrepreneurs looking to enter this domain, or even people that have a background such as yourself, right? They're starting off in law and they may be interested into working in blockchain, DLT, crypto, Web3, whatever you want to call it. What's some advice or words of wisdom that you would offer?
But so to the legal guys, I would say don't stay in your box. In France, people tend to put you in boxes in companies. So they say, okay, you're in the legal team, so you have to do legal. You're in the risk team, you do risk, and that's a shame. I think that people shouldn't be just limited to one box. People are in every boxes. People can do anything if they like it, if they want to do it. When there's a will, there's a way. So they can, and I'm a good example of that. So I did legal, and a lot of people like the HR told me, yeah, but you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to do legal capital market. You're not supposed to do blockchain. I'm not supposed to, but I will, and I did. And you have to just trust yourself sometime and just do it. That would be my best advice to people that are put in boxes and that are a bit scared to get out of. Again, it's when you take great risks that you get great rewards. And it's not for everyone, but if you feel like it and if you feel like you have the right personality, I really think you should do it. To entrepreneurs, there is one point I would like to stress is be careful who you on board with in terms of investors. We've been very lucky. All of our investors, they're great, but they all understand us. Very important to talk with VCs and investors that understand your business model really well, and that will be able to bring a very important input, very interesting input. And that's not only in the relationship they can bring you and the intros they can give you, but also in your business model, in the way you operate, in your governance. And for that to happen, there need to be a trust, but there also need to be a really deep understanding of your business model. And I think I see a lot of startups having VCs that they onboard that do not really understand what they do. And I think, okay, that's good because they give you a check, but to me, that's not enough. That's not enough. And in hard times, because there are hard times for everyone, every startup, I think that having someone you trust and someone who is able to, to understand the business model and give you advice is really invaluable. So that's an advice I would give to entrepreneurs, definitely.
That's amazing and very good advice. And also with your unique perspective of kind of straddling the worlds of law and finance and technology, how do you kind of foresee the convergence of all of these domains really shaping the future of finance, not only in the short term, but, kind of going out 5-10 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, there are two different things, but I would say that on the wholesale world, the CBDC is going to play a big role in how crypto sort of and the blockchain sort of go into the traditional financial sector. Right now, you have a lot of issues in the way securities are being exchanged, are being traded, and I think that CBDCs are going to play a very important role in that, and it's going to take a little bit of time. I think probably the next 3 to 5 years are dedicated to that, and you see a lot of initiatives in the space, a lot of initiatives in the US, in Europe, in Asia, everywhere, because they need to test the environment in order to be able to actually do something with at a national level, I would say, and even international. So I think that's something that we expect, and that's going to shift a bit on the traditional finance sector. And then on the more retail sector, I think again regulation plays a very big role, and I think that you're going to see more and more retail coming into the space after MiCA, and a lot of institutions that before they never touched crypto before, and I think they will enter into the space slowly, thereby also bringing with them retail that were not into this space at all. Like you would see, some retail who today they would never trade crypto. They would never have crypto because they're like, okay, I'm not going to have a ledger. I don't understand how it works. It's complicated. Then I don't trust this custodian because such and such. And tomorrow you suddenly see someone like, I don't know, like a huge US bank or huge French bank having his license to become a custodian. And then suddenly, if tomorrow, I don't know, like, you have someone like BNP or Citigroup offering custody of crypto, of course, that so many different people in the retail space is going to be, okay, if BNP is safeguarding my crypto, then okay, maybe I'll do it. So that's going to change a lot of things.
Yeah, typically, sometimes there's that learning curve, and it takes time for, especially for mass adoption, for people to become comfortable and familiar with this, right? And to, once again, go back to that word trust. So, you know, help me understand a little bit more about kind of your roadmap coming up in the future. I know that we have about 14 minutes left here, and just wanted you to share a little bit with the people about maybe some interesting thing that we can look forward to when it comes to innovations, or the products, or just really kind of building out once this is really kind of hitting the ground and going.
I think that definitely in the future, and we already see it, you have a lot of initiatives. A lot of initiatives. We see it in many different areas. So in the custody space, you have a lot of initiatives. Like you see a lot of banks now partnering with tech providers, for example, to build up a robust custodian offer. So that's something. That's something that you see a lot, and that you will see more and more again with regulation coming in. You see a lot of things in the ISV space. These vendors that connect to different venues, different trading venues. You have new actors coming into the space, like like Talos, for example, with whom we are going to partner. They're great. They're up and coming. Like they do something really innovative as well. And people like that you see in many different sectors of this ecosystem. So it's a really innovative ecosystem, especially when it comes to tech. You see new things, like for example, for us, we coded our matching engine in Rust. That's very unlikely. Something that's very rare. More and more people do it, but when we started it, it was not that common. And so I think that you see more and more very innovative initiatives in that space, and I think we'll see more and more after regulation is in as well.
And you yourself, do you feel that, and maybe this is just kind of playing devil's advocate for people that are interested in getting in the space, and you mentioned a lot of the great, advancements in technology that's being used. Have you always been someone that's technical, or would you even consider yourself to be someone that's technical, or do you just have a good understanding of it due to your collaboration with your team and your colleagues?
No, I would not say that I'm an expert in tech. Absolutely not. That's for sure. No, my expertise would lie more in the regulation, also the business now, of course. I mean, the derivatives and I would say financial infrastructures are really about. I piled up a lot of knowledge on that, of course, with the license, and when I worked at Natixis as well. So I would not call myself an expert in tech, of course. I mean, I wouldn't say against my will, but we have training in security, we have training in tech, and because of the regulation again and again, but we have to understand what's going on. You cannot just ignore tech and be like, okay, that's not my job. I'm not a developer, so I just don't understand. I have to understand roughly how it works, how what the issues that Rust would solve compared to other languages, for example, how the connectivity to the exchange works, and that's quite important, because of course I'm not a developer, but when I meet with prospective clients, they do ask these sort of questions, and I have to have a rough knowledge of them, even though after that I can connect them with the tech team, of course, for more detailed answers, but you still have to have an understanding of what's going on. Otherwise, it's just it's just difficult.
Yes, indeed. And, sometimes I get approached by people and they're always curious about how to get into the space. And I think that, sometimes that it just seems so far away of them being able to enter this industry. So, kind of more on a personal level, right? Outside of your professional endeavors, what are some things that kind of inspire and motivate you on a personal level, and how does that influence your leadership and just the way that you conduct business moving forward?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting question. I mean, why I've always been very motivated. I'm a motivated person. I can't tell you more than that. I've always been like that. I was I was in France. I was doing my studies, and I was like, yeah, I want to go to England, and I want to study there. And then everyone was telling me, no, you shouldn't do that. It's too complicated. No one has done that. You have to do your master's first. I said, no, I want to do it. It's a challenge, and I've always liked challenges. I've always liked the hard stuff. And you always have people around you telling you, yeah, you're not gonna do it. This is not gonna work. Even for the license, when we started, a lot of people said, yeah, but you're never gonna get the license. It's just not possible. It's complicated. And I think this is a mindset that we share within D2X. I think that the exco at D2X, whether in risk compliance, whether with Theo and Don on tech, we really share this mindset. And this mindset goes back to what you said about resilience. It's really about, we want to do that. This is our mission. We're on a mission to do this. And whatever it takes and whatever it costs, we will do it and we will make it happen. And and once you have this mindset, every action, every one of your acts follows this trend and follows this mindset. And in whatever you do, you just do it like that. And I think it's just a mindset that you have. I cannot tell you that, I watched someone and I was inspired. No, I think you are like that or you are not like that. And I think you feel it. And if you are like that, I encourage you to just be like that and continue to be like that, and do something entrepreneurial, because that is something you need to be an entrepreneur.
I love that. I love that. And, I know that this is a very complex subject matter for most. How does it go when a conversation among your friends and family and things like that? Are you the person that everyone comes to when they see something on the news about crypto and blockchain, or are you kind of the advocate that's kind of proactively trying to go and educate others about it?
No, I don't try to advocate, but I'm more defending it, because it's a bit disturbing, to have so many people still they just don't understand it. They just don't understand it, and they don't understand it, so they have false ideas about it, and they're like, oh, it's very bad for the environment, or it's only fraud, and all the
Money
things that you
laundering.
read. Yeah, exactly. So all these things you read and you hear, and it's just so disappointing. So I'm not really into debating with those people, because it's a bit I just don't want to lose my time over it. But I'm more about, yeah, answering to smart people who actually understand and have their research done on the subject, and maybe sometimes True come and ask me about it. So yeah, some people come to me, of course, and ask me questions about cryptos and blockchain, and I'm sometimes asked to also participate in panels, in conferences. I attend a lot of roundtables, conferences as well, and so does Theo as well. So yeah, we do participate in those kind of things, but I don't want to fight with people who don't understand the subject and just say things that are totally wrong, because I just don't have time, basically.
And that's a never-ending battle for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
looking ahead, what are some of the kind of key milestones or goals that D2X aims to achieve in the next upcoming year or so? And how do you envision the company's growth trajectory as well too? Are you in a position, I know that you mentioned you're around 40 or so, but are you looking to grow in the future and just expand? And lastly, what can potential users look for in terms of exciting things about like the user experience or product offerings beyond, Bitcoin and Ethereum?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we really want to be the go-to venue for institutions when it comes to crypto derivatives. So there are so many things that we can add. Again, you have today the alternatives are unregulated. You don't want to do that, and people who want to do that, they will maybe continue to do that, but then that's not the kind of people we want on the platform. People who are tired of getting counterparty risk every day, they will come to us. Regulated institutions who cannot trade on unregulated venues will also come to us. And then when it comes to very big institutions, such as the CME, the issue, of course, is that the lack of innovation you can do. So, for example, of course, you mentioned Bitcoin and ETH. Tomorrow, we could under, of course, certain conditions and risk, etc. But we could see ourselves listing new underlyings. We could see ourselves listing new products. Of course, we have an array of products we can list thanks to our MiFID license. Then you can look at the way people post collateral. Today we accept euros in the roadmap. Maybe we could think about dollars. Maybe we could think about cryptos later down the road when the custody issue no longer exists, thanks to Mika. And then, suddenly you just increase your target audience thanks to all of these features. So I always say that I like to see D2X as a car with no option at the beginning. It's like a great car that's unique and doesn't exist yet. And we have it on the road, we have it driving, and then we add new options along the road. So we add, an option like you would add on a car with a new product, with a new underlying, new things, new features. And all of this, of course, in a reasoned manner, in a compliance manner, always hand in hand with the regulator, of course. We'll never do something that the regulator does not authorize us to do. And always listening to the feedbacks of customers. That's key. If like 5 top customers tell me we want that, we want this feature, of course we will look at it in a different manner.
I love that. So wrapping up here, we have a couple of minutes left. Just really wanted to, for the people that are listening, either now or later on, for the recorded session as well too, what's the best way for someone to get in touch, not only with you, maybe, or potentially people on your team? Are you all looking to hire people? Are you looking for interns? What are some ways that people can just kind of connect and continue to learn about the ongoing developments and to even contribute or to partner with you in some way?
I will invite you to follow our LinkedIn page. I will invite you to follow the website. You can get in touch with us through the website. You can get in touch with us through our HR manager. And our open positions are so you have to look at the websites and you have to look at the LinkedIn posts. We always advertise when there is an open position. So I would encourage to really follow our LinkedIn page and website and to get in touch through there.
Wow, fantastic. What a great way to close it off here, Laetitia. So thank you so much for your words of wisdom here and really helping us understand more about what D2X is doing and just, the industry overall and the developments that we're making. It's an incredibly exciting time. So I continue to, applaud you for all the hard work that you've done, and I look forward to seeing some great things that are going to be released. I know there's some really cool private things that we can't talk about that are going on, and I'm just smiling here because I know it's really exciting, and I think that folks should definitely continue to follow you in the work that you're doing in the team as well too. So thank you so much. Everyone that's in the audience, I hope that this has been educational. I look forward to connecting with all of you again. We have another episode coming up this